Hello, so in this video we're just going to look at a practical demonstration of the example related to storage and scope of identifiers in the previous video. So this is just the books example which is typed out here. You have your variables, the function prototypes. So you have three types of functions: use local, use static local, use global. Now if you look at the main function, and in this function if you had forgotten to declare the variable x, what would have happened is that even if you did not define x here, over here when you were trying to print x, what would happen is you would then be directed to this value, which is the global variable x. So in that case you would have printed that because it is still accessible down here. Okay, so let's maybe put a breakpoint somewhere here. I think that makes sense. So it makes sense to kind of go through this program line by line and see how it works. So we're talking the local variable x here. So let's see if we execute this line. So we are printing our local x, which is inside this outer body. So if we try to print that here, we see the value of x is 5, which is, yes, in the outer scope of x it is 5. Now let's look at this line here. So inside, once we actually execute this one more time, now what we've done is we've set x to 7, and over here once we actually run the program, we actually should have printed x is 7, which we have. And now when we're outside, again x is 5 in this. Now notice this is not equal to 1, so the global variable, although it exists by default, it has static storage, so it is stored but it's not visible inside here. So the program is keeping track of it, but it's not it's being overshadowed or hidden by the local variables x that we have defined inside the main function. So let's execute this. Again we should have printed x is 5. Now if we go inside the use local function, now when we come to this function, we are now defining a new value for x. So we are assigning it a value of 25. So this local x has a value of 25. We print that, we increment that, and then if we print that one more time, we see that we basically printed the value 26. Now if we press F10 one more time, we go to the main program. Again, notice the value of x is 5 now inside the main function. Now we go into the use static local. Now inside we define a new value for x. We assign it a value of 50. If we print that, we should have printed a value of 50, which we have. Increment it, again we print it, and you have x is now 51. Now when you execute one more time, now in this case you are back in the main, and inside the main the value of x should again be 7, which is the local value. Sorry, not 7, 5. but now we're in the next function. We want to go into the next function, which is use global. So if we do that, if we step into that function here, now we're not defining any x here. When we're not defining any x here, what that means is we are going to access the global variable x, and there are actually two x's that are operating in the background. One is the global one, which is defined outside, and by default it has static storage duration, so it is visible here. And then there is an other x which we defined in the use static local. Now this one is also stored because it has static duration, so it is stored in the program. Its current value is 51, but it is not visible here, so its scope is only limited to the static local function. So it's present, but it's not, it cannot be referenced outside this function. However, the global function, which is defined out here, it has, this one also has static storage duration, and it also has global scope, which means that's the one we are going to be able to access here, because if we don't define any local x, then that's the one we're going to refer to. So if we print its value, we should get 1, then we multiply it by 10, we change its value to 10, and now it changes to 10. Now we've changed the global variable, so we're going to remember that value because it has by default static storage duration. Now if we come back here inside our main, and now again if we execute the use local, we are going to print 25 and 26, which are identical to the values that we printed last time, because this one has automatic storage duration and the variable x there is local. Now if we run the use static local, this one will remember. So inside we are going to remember, so let's just step inside here. Now here again, notice that even though the first line says x is 50, but this was static int, so that means that it was created only once, and now we're not going to reinitialize it, we're going to use the last value, and the last time we were in this function we changed its value to 51, and so we're going to print 51 not 50. Then we're going to increment its value, and then we're going to print it again, and now we have 52. Now next time when we come back into this program, we're going to start with the value 52. Okay, and then finally if we go into use global, now when we were in use global, last time we were here, we changed the value of the global x to 10, and you see it's 10. We print that. Now we change its value to 10 times 10, which is 100, and so now the global x has changed to 100, and it's printed there. Then we exit, and now once we're back in the main, now we are looking at a local version of x, and that has a value of 5, and if we print that, we get 5. And so I hope this makes sense, and you can play around with this function. So it looks like with this program, so this looks like a very simple program, but kind of illustrates some very key concepts. So I would recommend that you download it and you play around with it, and thank you. I will see you in the next video.